Everyone, welcome back to Make Good Fashion. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to develop your product from design to finished product step by step. So are you ready? Let's get into it. Okay, first we're going to start off by sketching our garment. So you want to get a sketch of the clothing you want to produce, and the best way to go about this if you're manufacturing cut and sew pieces is to do flat sketches. And flat sketches are a lot simpler to do than those elaborate sketches that you see of garments. And so if this is something that you want to learn how to do, there are books on Amazon that teach you how to flat sketch or simple templates that you can then go and add on details to. And so I will include some of my Amazon recommendations for flat sketching books. But if you are someone who does not design, has no interest in learning to be a designer, then you can always find a freelancer on a site like Fiverr.com. They have tons of freelancers that can do a lot of creative projects. And so Fiverr.com is a great resource for that. You can just type in fashion flat sketching or fashion technical design, and you can find someone who can render your idea into a design. So, after you've gotten your designs done for your collection, the next step is that you want to think about fabric selections that you want to use for the designs that you've created. Think about how you want the fabric to move. Do you want a knit or woven fabric? What fabric do you envision the garments being made in? After you have thought about your fabric selection, and just a little tip, if you are producing your collection in bulk, you want to make sure that whatever fabric that you find that you're not buying it from a retail store like Michael's or Joann's or even Mood Fabrics. You want vendors that wholesale fashion fabric. And if you're curious about how to even find vendors that sell wholesale fashion fabric, I have a video about sourcing at Magic, which is a fashion textile trade show that you can go to, and you can go and discover tons of vendors that sell wholesale fabric. The reason why you want to buy wholesale fabric instead of buying fabric at a retail store is because one, let's say you have a bestseller on your hands, you want to make sure that you're finding a fabric that can be reordered or can be reproduced. Also, since you are selling fashion product, you want to make sure that you're spending a wholesale price on the fabric that you buy, because then you're going to mark up the final product and then sell it, and then the end consumer will pay for the tax. So once you have found your fabric that you want to produce in, now you want to get your tech packs made. And what a tech pack is, it's basically an instruction manual on how your garment should be produced. So your tech pack usually contains like an image of your garment. So the sketch, it also contains the bill of materials, which is all the materials and components that go into making the garments. It has your measurement specs. So it shows like from the neck to the armhole, how many inches go down from there. So you're basically just given instructions on how to create your garment. And if you're not someone who knows how to create a tech pack, again, Fiverr is a great resource for this. If you just type in tech packs, you'll find many talented freelancers who specialize in creating tech packs. So this is something I would definitely outsource if you have no idea to make one. Now, some people would argue that you don't need to use a tech pack if you are manufacturing in the US. And I would beg to differ. I think the reason why we use tech packs is to, again, show manufacturers how a garment can be constructed. And obviously, when you're working overseas, a lot of people overseas don't speak the same language that we do. And so the tech pack is like a universal language that everyone can understand. But even though in the US, more people speak our native language, English, things can still get lost in translation. And tech packs just make it easier for them to know exactly how to create the garment. And I find that when you use a tech pack, you are leaning on the safer side and you're leaving less room for error. And so my recommendation is to get a tech pack anyway, because you're probably going to save more money on the long run. I think sometimes people skip the tech packing portion because they think they're going to save money by not doing a tech pack and just giving the factory measurements or a sample reference. But the more detailed you are, like I said, the less room for error. And if you're not putting specific details about how the garment should be constructed, sometimes the manufacturers will just leave it up into their own interpretation. So again, you want to be safer than sorry and get your tech packs made. So each piece requires a tech pack. So once you have a tech pack made for all the pieces in your collection, then you want to go ahead and take your tech pack, take your sample fabric. You can ask the fabric vendors if you can cut some sample yardage instead of buying a whole roll of fabric. And then you are going to take all the materials, all the ingredients that go into making your product with your tech pack, and then go to a pattern maker and a sample maker. So I always recommend that whoever's doing your patterns does your samples too, because you want to make sure that they can prove the pattern is made correctly by translating that into a sample. So your pattern maker is a person who makes the template for the garment, basically. So they take all the measurements that you provided in your tech pack, they take any sample references that you provide them, and then they make a pattern for it. When the pattern is done, they take the pattern, they lay it out on top of the fabric, and then they cut the fabric and make a sample for you. And so you want to get a sample made of every garment that you plan to produce. And so once you have your sample made, the next step is to fit your sample. And again, this is a step that sometimes people overlook, but is 100% completely necessary. One big reason for first fashion startups going out of business is that the fit is horrible, and you want to make sure that you are mastering fit really well. And let me just say this, your product is not going to fit everyone perfectly. I'm a tall girl, and sometimes my sleeves are here instead of here. So you want to focus on when you are doing your fit sessions, when you're fitting your samples, that you're choosing a fit model that represents your target audience, right? So what is your general target audience? What is her height? What is her body type? And so, anyways, how a fit session works is that you're going to fit your samples. Your samples all come in like a sample size, right? So, let's say all your samples are size small. You want to find a fit model that is a size small and again has measurements that represent your target customer. And then you're going to fit the garments and you're going to have the model do like some natural movements that you would do in your day to day. So, you want her to lift her arms, maybe do the driving motion. You want her to squat and see how the garments feel on when she's doing all these movements. You want to ask her how the fabric feels on, if it's comfortable, all of those things. And actually at makegoodfashion.com/fit check, we have a guide that goes over all these things, how to do your fit sessions from start to finish. And so as you're doing these fit sessions, you also want to see like, is the length sitting in the right place? If it's not, you want to kind of pin it up where it should go. You want to make little markings where things need to be changed. Maybe the zipper needs to go a little lower. Then maybe you want to put a piece of tape and show that the zipper needs to go a little lower. Then you want to note down all these fit changes and you want to translate this back to your pattern maker so they can amend the pattern and then produce a new sample with the new measurements. Going back to tech packs, this is why tech packs are so important, because if you have all the specs and measurements pretty on point, the less amount of revisions that you're going to need to do when it comes to creating more samples. So you want to eliminate that process of making so many samples because you just can't get the fit right by creating a tech pack that is accurate and has all those details that are needed so that your pattern maker can get it in the first round or two. Okay, so after you have fit your samples on your fit model and everything's looking good, you are happy with the final sample. Now we're ready to get into the production process. You're going to order your production fabric, and then you're also going to get your markers and grading done. So when you do the marking and grading, the person doing the marking and grading will take your pattern. So they'll take the template and they'll digitize it. And so they'll digitize your pattern, put it on a computer, and then they will increase or decrease the sample size of the pattern to get your sizes, right? So, for example, they'll take the size small, and to get the size medium, they'll increase it by 2 inches to get the medium, right? Or from the medium to the large, they'll increase it by 2 more inches to get the large size. So basically, pattern grading is just creating the different sizes that you're going to produce in. After they've created and digitized the different size templates, then they go ahead and do the marking. So what marking is on the computer, they have your sizes all plotted out and they have a digitized version of your fabric as if the large roll of fabric was laid out. Then they plot the pattern pieces in every size your garment comes in to try to efficiently fit it like a puzzle piece on your fabric to see how they can fit it on there without wasting too much fabric, right? So basically what you're looking at here is this is the fabric. These are all the sizes. They plot all the pieces of your pattern on the fabric. And then they're going to print out this huge paper that's like a blueprint, basically a blueprint that shows your cutter how the pattern pieces need to be cut out of the fabric so that it can go ahead and then go to production. So after you get that big roll of paper, which is your marker, It is then taken to the cutters. The cutters lay out the marker on top of a bed of fabric. So let's say you're getting 20 pieces made of each size. They're going to go ahead and roll out 20 layers of fabric down on the cutting table, and then they're going to put your marker on top of it, which is like the big blueprint template with all the sizes laid out, and then they will cut the fabric out of the template. After the fabric is cut, it is then bundled and taken to your sewers, and then the sewers will then go ahead and sew the garment. After the sewing is done, they'll do the finishing, which is the tagging and all of that. And then your garments also need to go through quality control to make sure that everything is good to go. Now, there are different types of factories that do different things and handle different things. There's a full service factory, which will take care of all the process that we just spoke about. So the full service factory will do the pattern making, sample making for you, the marking, grading, production, quality control, and everything. So this is really efficient for those of you guys who don't want to piece produce everything. You just want everything done under one place, vertically integrated. Then we have CMT factories, which are cut, make, trim factories. They only handle the part of the production process where it comes to cutting, making the garment, and then doing the trim. And so with this, you're going to need to find someone who can do your pattern and your samples and your marking and grading in a separate place in your factory. Then there's a sewing only factory. So if you find a factory that only sews, then you're going to have to handle the pattern making, marking, grading, and even cutting in a separate facility. And so that's how the production process works and how you would get your garment made. First, you design the garment. Next, you do your fabric selections. Next, you want to do your tech packs. After you have your tech packs made, then you're going to go ahead and get your pattern and sample made. And once your pattern and sample is made, you're going to go ahead and fit the samples on a fit model. Once you have your fit perfected, your fabric selection is A1. Then you're going to order your production fabric and do your marking and grading. Once your marking and grading is all done, the marker goes to the cutter and the cutter cuts out of that template. Once the cutting is done, then the cuts go ahead and go to the factory. They sew up the garments, trim the garments, quality control, and then you are good to go. You have a finished product and you're ready to sell. So I hope that explanation was helpful to you. Now, if you want a step-by-step checklist, make sure to head over to makegoodfashion.com/production checklist. I break down everything I talked about in even more detail so you can have it as a companion as you produce your fashion collection. If you have any questions about anything I spoke about, please let me know in the comments and let me know also about what you're planning to produce, what type of factory you're deciding to go with, and all of that. I'd love to hear what you're making. I'll see you next time.